What's up, everybody? Malmolian is here back again with another iteration of Retro to Standard, where we take a look at a deck from previous formats, which back then was standard, but they're now retro, and then try to see if we can recreate them in the current standard card pool. Today, it's covering one of my favorite decks, and that is Eraserhead, Death Eraserhead. The original pilot of this deck was created by Christopher Bromley, I believe. My memory serves me correctly. Bromley, down with Unfun Stuff, and created this deck. It was a nice, cheap, and effective deck. As we'll get into it here, there's not too many cards that are like an outrageous cost, but it's a very effective deck. That took Eraserhead, which let's go ahead and cover him now. He is a 7 hand size, 19 health character. Has a static before the game. Add up a copy to erase from your deck to your discard pile, and then shuffle your deck. Let's just erase here, which has a response that after an attack is played, your rival cannot play abilities on their character during this attack, and then you discard it from your card pool. And it had Breaker 1, and it's a +1 mid block. And then his enhance says discard a card. This attack gets +2 or -2 speed. Add a copy of erase from your discard pile to your hand. Then the response was commit. After you play or block with an action, you can draw 2 cards. So the primary play line of this character was you're playing your cards out. You get a copy of erase in your hand, and then if you don't need to dig for anything or to get rid of, you can just quote unquote discard the erase and pick it back up. We normally just flash it to say, hey, I'm discarding, picking it back up, and get the +2 or -2 speed. It was super repeatable. And like I said, you technically never got rid of the card in your hand. And this is just how you just constantly strung out and blocked, combined with the fact that erase says that your character didn't work. And it was a perfect character. I mean, you read it, and yes, it is a very defensive character, but it's a perfect character for offensive shell because when you run aggro in this game, you typically just want to run just enough defense so that you can have everything else, your stage and your attacks, focused on all the offense. And Eraser was perfect with this because all of his defense was on face. So even if you didn't have a good stage setup, as long as you were able to not run out of erases in a turn, you normally were pretty good to go. So let's get into the attack lineup, and then I'll talk about the foundations and the assets and actions. So we're running 4 copies of Instant Shining Flash. Instant Shining Flash acted like a flow card. It was also just a 6 high for 4 in Eraserhead. But it's a flow card that says the next card you attempt to play this turn gets -1 difficulty. Usually that was to play another attack. So being able to say that, hey, your 5 diff is coming in now as a 4 diff just kind of helped to string that along. Eraserhead, if they could poke, it was okay, I guess. But normally 5 attacks in a turn, you're usually dead. They play, especially if it involves this one here, Twisting Azure Inferno. The other great thing about Instant Shiny Flash is they had the response after you play this card, your rival discard momentum. So it's great momentum hate as well because you could block with it and trigger the effect. When you play this in attack, you trigger the response. All around great utility and flow card to keep your attack streams going. The prize, I guess, say the birthday boy of this deck is Twisting Azure Inferno. This one says that if the attack's damage is 7 or greater for the rest of the turn, your checks get +1. Your rival's checks to play blocks get -1. Then has a response on it after you play an action. This attack gets +2 damage. Now, mind you, Eraserhead only has speed on hand. So under the death symbol, though, we have a ton of spam that we can play for damage pump. And that's what kind of made this card kind of like a guarantee. Normally, when you play characters, if you don't have their stat pump requirement on their face, typically it was very, very hard to reliably trigger a card like Twisting Azure Inferno. But again, under the death symbol, there's so much spam damage pump that it was almost automatic every time because we have, let's see, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 copies of cards that pump damage in our stage here. And then we'll have Grenadier Bracers, which I said we'll get to. So it was almost very reliable. 15 copies, literally half of our 30 foundations were cards that say, hey, give this +X damage. Up next, we got Vile Seizing. which is another high attack here. 4/3 with the 1 high block with breaker 1. It says enhance, your rival makes a check against a 7. If they fail, draw a card and this attack gets +2 damage. And then it has a deadlock enhanced, your rival gets checks get -2 for the rest of the turn. Now typically, in order to play against these aggro decks, you kind of like built a massive stage, what we call as a wall in our game. And then that way you can just kind of play your blocks out and force them to get through the stage. While seizing, this card here says that you're not allowed to build into deadlock, just because once you hit -2 on your checks to block attack or checks period for the rest of the turn, any Eraserhead is pumping 2 stats. That's a 4 stat swing on trying to be able to block things that are going to absolutely try and murder you, which means that is now possibly 1 to 2 attacks that you just don't get to block anymore. A very, very good card. This one is another 3x, and Eraserhead makes it to where if they fail that check, it's not a 3 high for 6, it's actually a 5 high for 6, which is a pretty decent static card for a 4 diff. Now next is 4 copies of Binding Cloth Catcher. This is Eraserhead's ultra rare from MHA, the base set 1. It says if you have played in action this turn, this card gets -2 difficulty, which you're usually playing Erase at least some point in time during the turn. So essentially this was a 3 diff that was a 4 low for 5. Eraser makes it a 6 low for 5. The combo enhance was never played just because we have literally no other cards in here that combo. But that bottom one says enhance seal 1 rival foundation. This was very often played because of the lower difficulty. It was played as like the end of the string attack. This is what you were using your Grenadier Bracer pump on, which I guess we'll cover here for a little bit. Grenadier Bracer says that it's a unique that if you have destroyed a foundation this enhanced step, it gets +1 damage. And then enhance commit, this attack gets +1 damage for each foundation you have destroyed this turn. So ideally, you have turned on Twisting Azure Inferno, so you're getting +2 to your checks. And then you're also blowing up your own stage, kind of getting those, Sam Takes like to call them, it's like those storm counters. So you're just building up to that 4 or 5 or even having 6 counters on this card. And then when you play the Binding Cloth Capture as a 3 diff, on a 6 or 7 or 7 or 8, the 4th or 5th attack in the string at the end, you can just dump everything into it, give it the damage, and then turn it sideways to pump it the rest of the way. And by the time that attack comes through, usually it's hitting for lethal. And then we have 3 copies of Fierce Whirlwind. Fierce Whirlwind is another high attack, +1 mid block, 5/3, charge, EX2 in range. Response card pool, flip 1 card in your card pool after your rival plays an ability on a committed foundation, destroy it. What we're really playing it for is the bottom enhance, destroy X foundations, ready X foundations that have not been ready this combat phase. So again, we don't have destroy on face, so that's why we are running like brute strength, things like Fierce Whirlwind, cards that are going to allow us to blow up our stage in order to trigger these, get these counters on our Grenadier Bracers to get it going. And this is an attack that just says that we get to do it. Again, because Eraser does not have destruction foundations on his face, again, between the stage and then having an attack that can do it. This is another very good flow card that you kind of played in the middle of the string. This is one where if you did check bad, it kind of really puts you in a bind. But if you checked well by the time you played this and you already had a few foundations committed, usually you were going on to the next step, which was finishing the job. We've talked about the Grenadier Bracers, Kevin Broberg, and the reason why I picked this one is because this was the last, I think, highest successful finish of the deck. Again, like I said, he wasn't the first one to play it. Jose played it before then as well too. Actually, it's been played forever, but it had popped back up recently around this time in 2023, the tournament circuit. And League of Villains, it's just a 4/4 response, commit a foundation after your rival plays an enhanced ability on an attacker foundation, cancel it. Then the bottom response is after your rival plays an ability on a committed foundation, they lose 1 health, and that is repeatable as long as it's ready. So again, just a nice utility card, being able to have an on cancel at the cost of, let's say, commit an asset and 1 other foundation. It was nice. It was a nice to have. Erase for it has to be in the deck. That's just how the character works. I mean, it also does have an enhance on it. Remove, if you ever wanted to remove, you could seal an asset or a foundation, just if you wanted to really make sure that you got the job done. And then 1x copy of Showdown. Showdown is just one of those fantastic cards. It just says, "Hey, stop attacking me." response after you block with this card, you can commit 2 rival foundations, and it also has a response of you commit 2 foundations. After a rival plays an ability on an action card, cancel it. So you had worlds where sometimes you'll block with the showdown, and then you could respond with Eraserhead, uh, and draw 2 cards if you would like. Very rarely that response commit was a very hard thing to get right as an Eraserhead. Sometimes it will cost you the game, and sometimes it extended your life to allow you to live to fight another turn. So now we'll go to our foundations. 4x tight-lipped, flip 1 foundation. Your attack gets +1 damage. Just super staple. I said it can even flip itself, but if you can extend the life of just flipping some other foundations that you didn't need, the more the merrier. Surviving the final, again, just a little bit more speed hate, saying that, hey, you get -3 speed. Sometimes as Eraserhead, you don't find those other erases early enough. You may not want to tear your hand apart, just yet. Sometimes just having a few of these on board will be just enough. That -2, -3 speed, be just enough to kind of get you to block and keep going until you can get your kill turn put together. 2x copies of Mediators. It's enhanced. Destroy your rival attacks. Your rival attack gets -3 speed. And then if you play that action card, which normally you would play Erase, you get to draw a card. So it kind of replaces a card in your hand. Or if you did the thing with the Erase when I was talking about, you discard it and you pick it back up, and you just get net +1 in your draw for your card. 1 copy of Force and Surrender is just after you play the combo ability, which again, we're not worried about combo abilities. This is primarily for enhanced flip. Discard 1 non-attack card from either player's card pool. This was your way to, so you have to string out a couple erases. When you're running lower, you can't find another one. You flip this, you can kick it out, put it into your discard pile. So now that way you can discard a card from hand and pick up another one if you need to be, to continue to chain those breaker blocks going. 4 copies of Struggling with Studies. Struggling with Studies does what it does. If you're not familiar with it, you flip it after your rival's 3rd or greater attack this combat phase. Add a card from your card pool to your hand. Again, you can pick up that high block that you may have needed. You can pick up the Erase again and play with it again as you need it. But it also had a great responsibility that before one of your foundations would be flipped due to a rival effect, you could flip this instead as well, just so that you can make sure you had your damage pump, or especially like brute strength up, just to make sure that the character still gets to do what it needs to do. The last of the spam damage pumps is 4x copies of Red Rise the Coolest. Just easy flip. This attack gets +2 damage, but it's also playable while committed. The Deadlock Enhance is not relevant to anything in our character, but again, it's just a simple flip +2 damage that works great in our character. And 1 copy of Night Watch. Eraserhead's rare from the set. Response: remove an action card from your discard pile, which is hopefully the showdown and not an erase. After your rival plays a non-character enhanced, cancel it. So this was kind of be those silver bullets where if your rival had an answer for like a stat reset or something like that, you can use this to cancel. Or if they had like a stat pump that might have killed you or something like that, anything that was non-character, you can just use this. It's good to go. One of the most important foundations of the deck is the Brute Strength, simply because it's enhanced. Lose a health, your attack gets +1 damage. Then you also have Destroy 1 foundation, your attack gets +1 damage. This is another one of our destruction costs on here that's going to pump and fuel the Grenadier Bracers. But also, if we did not have a Grenadier Bracers up, this card alone will allow us to be able to pump those stats up to 6, 7, 8 damage. 6 times 5 is 30. That at that time, that was killing most characters, except for like your Nomus. And I mean, I guess you can count Muscular. Muscular really wasn't played at the time that this was being popularized. But again, still just making stuff fast enough too hard to block Brute Strength. Brute Strength was the foundation. Usually once there was a couple on board, you were pretty much on the clock. 1 copy Learning Standards. Again, just a silver bullet. It says after your rival builds an asset or a foundation during the combat phase, flip it. But the biggest reason you wanted it was for the response remove effect. After you take damage from an unblocked attack, your rival must play a non-attack as their next form or in their combat phase. Usually this means, okay, you ate it, you didn't have enough blocks, or you know that there's a string that's coming along. just to say, hey, you need to clog your card pool +1, or stop attacking me and build out for the rest of the phase. We got 3 Learning to Hardens. Learning to Harden is great because it's a commit not only for minus speed, but again, +2 damage as well. So another source of damage pump. But it has a pretty neat death response. After this card is destroyed, you draw a card. So you can use Brute Strength. You could use Fierce Whirlwind. After you've hopefully committed this to get the stats off of it, then you can blow it up to draw a card and see if you can get there the rest of the way. And then last but not least, we've got 2 copies of Blood Evaluation. Response once per turn after its foundation is ready due to effect. You got to draw a card. Then has an enhance of discard a momentum, ready this card, or flip a rival momentum. This was just a way of, there's an EX ability. Fierce Whirlwind is the EX, but you're very rarely, if ever, using that. So this was just a nice momentum out for you to be able to create some card draw and ready a foundation once per turn as well. We're not going to talk about the sideboard. Sideboard is usually meta dependent. I just wanted to talk about the bare bones of the deck. The base of the deck. So that was the retro version of the deck. So how could I run this today in standard? Well, my friend, I am glad you asked. I think the best person that wears this new shell is Erwin Smith, the 13th commander of the Survey Corps. He reads that after you sacrifice 1 or more foundations, or your attack deals damage, add 1 wall counter to this card. Enhance, sacrifice 1 foundation, which is destroy. For those who are uninitiated, this attack gets +2 or -2 speed. Sounds very familiar, does it not? Then enhance, remove 3 wall counters. Build the top card of your deck face down. This is the second ability that I think makes Erwin just great running this shell. One, he has what Eraserhead didn't have, is the destruction cost on his face. So we're still getting our +2 or -2 speed benefit. However, we also have on face the ability to blow up foundations, which allows us to run a different type of attack package. We still need to have damage in the stage and through our attacks, because we're not pumping that on face as well too. But being able to have a trigger a lot easier for our Grenadier Bracers, it definitely makes life a lot easier on us during there as well too. So now we don't get to be able to just pick up a free block all the time with a +1 breaker mid block. But that's okay, because we have, like I said, wall counters that after we're blowing our stuff up for plus or minus speed, we kind of get to build it back after that, or if our attacks hit as well. So speaking of attacks, let's go ahead and cover the attack lineup. My favorite is the Attack Titan Emerges. It is a 3 diff because I said set 1 rotated out in our current standard. So it's a 3 diff, 3 +1 low block. Sure, it's only a 2 low for 3. But it has a response of sacrifice the foundation. After you play this card, you get to build the foundation from your discard pile with difficulty less than the sacrifice card's difficulty. So that's just our way of, if we have an enormous axe, which we'll talk about that combo. But let's say I decide to blow up an enormous axe, then I get to trigger itself, where I get to build the top card of my deck face down. But then I also get to build in a 2 diff, and we have a ton of great options for our 2 diffs, like Learning to Harden, Immortal Shapeshifter, and we'll get into those stages. But definitely is a great, once again, this is our Grenadier Bracers, like Binding Cloth Catcher was the Grenadier Bracers recipient in the Eraserhead deck. This is the one for Erwin. Erwin would make it a 4 low for, whatever the Grenadier Bracers is that point. Which, again, like I said, would be great because on a 7 or an 8, 5 low speed is enough. And for the longest time, Indiscriminate Shock was killing people only as a 3 low speed move, just because of where it was played at in the turn and our entire rival stage being committed out. Twisted Azure, again, is another huge part of the backbone of the deck. Just like with the other one, once we get the damage on there, it's off to the races. Vile Seizing is still here for the same reason as a 4x. This one's bumped up to a 4x, though, instead of a 3 like we had it in Eraserhead. Because we also need to account for the 60 card minimum. I think, was this 60 cards as well? I can't remember. At one point in game time, we used to be able to have 50 cards. Yeah, this is only a 56 card deck. So we had to get to 60 now in standard. So just adding another copy of Vile Season doesn't hurt. Again, I don't need to go over that because we already talked about it in detail about the retro version of this deck. In the standard here, we have Battle or Release, a 4 high for 4, enhance, flip a foundation, draw a card. So we have fantastic card advantage. But this one has this attack gets plus X damage. X equals number of face downs in your stage, maximum of 4. We now have a card that not only draws us a card for ourselves, but also gives us its own damage pump. So we could very easily be looking at it's a 4 high 4, but you flip a foundation at a minimum, it becomes 5. Erwin can blow something up, it becomes like a 6 high 5. If you have Grenadier Bracers, you just say enhance. Hey, I blew a foundation up. This enhanced step, now it's a 6 high 6 at the minimum. So of course, the more face downs that you have, the more that could blow up, and it's just a very, very good card. Now, Battle or Release is an expensive card, so if you are looking to play this deck, I would probably swap out Battle or Release with its cheaper cousin, 45% power. You don't get the damage pump, but the block mod's the same. The base stats are the same, and it says if your rival is playing the game, say if it's like 4 more foundations or 6 or more foundations, I can't remember, you get to draw a card. So yeah, don't sweat if you don't have this. I would just use 45% power in its slot, and you should be okay. Instant Shining Flash, we talked about that at all wells already. It's great momentum hate. It's a nice flow card, and we're running that as a 3x in the deck. Now, Fierce Whirlwind, we have dropped down to a 1 of, just because now my character has destruction on its face, so it's not necessarily near as important to run as many copies of destroy X foundations in the deck. So this is just kind of like a nice refresh in the middle of the turn. You could be having some committed that you're ready to let go, and then after you blow them up, you can build in face downs with Erwins just to have fresh stages in order to keep building and attacking. And last but not least, we cannot forget our friend Risky Encounter. I'm only running a 2 of. Again, this is another great end of string attack because you blow up your foundations, which will count towards the Grenadier Bracers because it says for each foundation. So when you pay the cost, you're already adding +3 damage to these bracers. And then it just gets mega. It's got stun 1. It's already a 4 high. So even if you can't afford to pump the speed on it, still by the time it's played on that 7 or that 8, it has its own blitz. And then you can commit the Grenadier Bracers. I think the highest I've got one up to has been like 17 damage. Something absolutely absurd. So I split it there because, again, I know running 4x of Risky Encounters, not everybody can get those. So I kind of split it 2 and 2, 2 Risky Encounters, 2 Attack Titan Emerges, and it still works out pretty good. For our assets, we're running 3 of Grenadier Bracers. It's self-explanatory. Explaining the other one, this is the other part that makes the deck go boom. For our actions, though, we have Go for the Win. This one's kind of iffy for me, only because I eventually run into the point to where my attacks are hitting because they're so fast, or my rival's trying to wait to be able to block for the lethal attacks. And I will get to the point to where by the amount of foundations I blow up and I'm building with Erwin, I actually am outpacing my rival. So I don't get to do the form sometimes. Now, it's very good if I see it early game, but like by the time I'm ready to go in my quote unquote late game, sometimes I have more foundations than my rival. So I know I was contemplating like avoiding the conflict just because it was card draw, and if somehow it winds up in the discard pile, you can remove it to get your damage or speed reduction. I can't remember which one it is, but I don't know. I experimented with that slot. Like I said, it does good because, like I said, we're blowing our stage up, but because Erwin gets rewarded for blowing the stage up and building, just be aware that at some point in time you may outpace your rival, and this is like a dead card in your hand unless you need it to pass a block, but then you're increasing your progressive. So I don't know. That's a weird card to work around. And then the 1x showdown, just like we had the Embracer here deck. For the same reason, just saying, hey, stop attacking me, or you better think long and hard about trying to complete this string. On to our foundation lineup, surviving the final, just for the same as the other one. Sometimes I don't have the foundations I need to commit to blow up in order to get the -2 speed. So having this on stage is nice and helpful to kind of block those early pokes, or those early turns where you're trying to assemble your stage and get your hand together to go in for the kill. Syndicate target 0-6, self-explanatory what it's used for. Botan's coaching, again, more card draw, discard. Your rival may be trying to hold on to highs. 'Cause I think we have quite a bit. How many highs do we have in here? Yeah, 14 out of the 20 attacks are highs. So they may, catch wind of that and try to hold on to high blocks. And Botan's coaching might be able to try to rip out that one, and hopefully they don't draw a new one. But this also allows you to filter as you're searching as well too. Running 2 copies of Space Terror. This is from the King Ghidorah deck. Just flip +1 damage. This is like our equivalent to Tight Lip, since Tight Lip no longer exists in Standard. Just be able to flip for +1. It's fine. It helps to get the job done. Struggling with Studies is again a 4x mainstay staple. Red Rise the coolest. Again, just a 1 div spam. Playable while committed. Flip for +2 is A-okay in our book. Learning to Harden is back again from the retro build. Again, still has the death response to being destroyed. Those are destroyed face up, and then again they commit for +2 damage. So we have 1x copy of Always Cool. Great for defense when we know we're playing and we can't afford this to be an attack to be pumped to the moon. Or it can also help with the early turns by just adding it to your card pool and building the top 2 cards of your deck face down. Could help you to destroy the cost to build with Erwin and things like that. So it's a nice one of. Immortal Shapeshifter. Immortal Shapeshifter is an absolutely snapped in half card. So good. So good. I played it primarily on the life symbol. I have played it on the evil symbol as well. But here in our deck, this just says that our 23 health gets to last us who knows how much longer. Because typically we're blowing up our stage, which means that sometimes we might not have enough to survive a crackback per se, or we need to hold on to our 2 cards to make them last as long as possible to block lethal stuff. Immortal Shapeshifter just says that you're blowing up your stage to give up your speed bonuses or speed reductions. You're gaining your health back as well too, and it also has that other half part of brute strength where you can blow up a foundation and get a damage as well too. So I don't know, a very good card. I said this is the important, how brute strength was the important foundation for the Eraserhead deck. This card is the important foundation for the Erwin Death deck. 3 copies of Weapon Clash. Love Weapon Clash because again we are going to have quite a bit of face down foundations after building the wall counters, and then we have quite a few flip costs for our foundations as well. We can blow stuff up to give it -2 damage, again to extend our life total a little bit. Then we can also, if need be, flip, build the top card of your deck face down committed, and now we have a free no cost foundation in order to blow up with Erwin, to continue to pump our Grenadier Bracers, or to be able to freely pump our speed without having to commit or destroy any of our ready resources. 2 copies of Keiko's Aid. Again, this is just one of those survive cards. It's kind of to help say, stop attacking me. This has kind of been more unpopular in favor of learning the standards, just because somebody might be able to play a 0 diff for learning the standards, pass the check, and then play another thing to keep going. Keiko's Aid just says, hey, there's no breaker to work around, or none of that. Regardless of what you play, the next attack you get is going to have +2 difficulty, and sometimes that is enough to end the attack turn of your rival. We're running one of Erwin's unique, the Ambition of Erwin Smith. Has Enhanced Sacrifice. You get to target commit a rival foundation, or has its once per turn death response, which is what we're using it for often. After you sacrifice 1 or more foundations, you just get to draw a card. Hey, you play your character, you got more draw support. And then the last foundation in the deck is the Enormous X. We're just running 4x of that. It's a +1 mid, 3 diff. That has the static of after this foundation is destroyed, build the top card of your deck face down. But it has the Enhanced Commit. This attack gets +X damage. X equals the number of face down foundations in your stage, which, like I said, we'll have a lot. Keiko's Aid is a flip cost. Whenever you're ready to flip Weapons Clash, that's a flip cost. Red Rise the Coolest is a flip cost. Struggling with Studies has a flip cost. Space Terror is a flip cost. Botan's Coaching is a flip cost. You guys catching my drift here? We're going to have so much flip effects, and then when Erwin build in his face down foundations as well. So just having 2 copies of Enormous Axe, you can pump insane amounts of damage onto your attacks. And then if you just need to last a little bit longer, hey, you get to blow it up, and then you get to have a committed foundation face down. You get to build it, and then you can use Erwin. Hopefully you hit 3 counters, remove that, build another one, then you can blow up free. So I don't know, Erwin is super efficient, extremely hyper efficient, and I love this deck a lot. So that wrap up the episode, guys. If you definitely want to give this a shot, it is on my UVS account, which is Malmo. I will try to have these decks that I do in the Retro to Standards in a folder, so you can just look at this. That way, if you want to go sleeve it up and take it up to your locals, play in Wednesday Webcam Weekly, you're more than welcome to do that. Both the Retro and the Standard decks, because you can play this deck as well too. Because I don't think it has snack time. No, it doesn't have snack time. Okay, yeah, so this is another deck that you can play as well too if you just want to try it out. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Please send me some ideas. I am scouring retro content. There seems to be quite a bit of it, but like finding deck profiles of old decks, it's getting hard. And like I said, I'm covering stuff that from when I started playing, which is about 2022. But I'm loving trying to attempt to find decks that were played before then. So please, 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 if you want to continue seeing more of these, like, comment, subscribe, so that way you can get the notifications when they go live. And then just message me. I'm usually active in the Universus Discords, Andrews, Tams, Let's Talk UVS, Ace Maneuvers. You can find me in all of those under my YouTube name, Mammalian, which is the same for my Twitch and also for my Discord as well. So you guys have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.